Welcome back to Weekend Express, the final leg of Weekend Express. And as we had promised, we're going to be talking about the 16 days of activism that kicked off last week under the theme Leave No One Behind, intended to create awareness and galvanize people to bring an end to gender-based violence. Now, last week, we looked at violence against women. This week, we will be focusing on violence against men, which is the least publicized. And joining me in studio to my immediate left is Dr. Catherine Siengo, who is a psychiatrist. Next to her is Kennedy Otina, who is the program associate for the Men-to-Men program at Femnet. And finally, but not least, is Simon Masharia, who is a gender-based violence survivor and also a psychologist. Thank you very much for making time to join us here on Weekend Express. Let's just get started. I'll start with you, Simon.
Yes.
You've experienced this. You've survived this. Kindly just share your experience.
Yes, thank you. And I survived in 2011 gender-based violence by my spouse.
Yes.
We had lived for 10 years. And it happened one day, I found a very compromising text. And as I was looking round about it, she came behind me and attacked me. And of course, I went through the process of hospital. And after that, it was not very easy because of the attachment and the disbelief that it has happened to you. And also, where do a man run to if he is attacked in his home ground? Where do you run to? It's a very tricky, and I can say, a very murky situation. And I thank God after that I was able to survive by help of men like him who have found it important to look for men who could be able to talk about their experiences and lift them up from the ground. Yes.
You said she attacked you because of a text.
Yes.
What was, if you can share, what were the contents of this text?
Well, I am feeling very comfortable to speak about it.
Yes.
Because one, I was not staying at home. I was working in Nairobi and I had to travel to Meru every weekend. And the context was someone was asking, why are you not picking the calls? Is it that your husband has come? We can shelve this until later. And that one woke me up, and I was like, I needed to know who did it and how often. So on the inbox, I was able now to get everything. So after some time, she realized I was communicating with someone about the issue. Then she was like, oh my, this has happened. And she was agitated. And by the time I turned to see her, she attacked me from behind, and the knife was on my neck. Yes.
Did you report?
Thank you. It's a funny process because for a man to go and report he has been battered is a stigma itself. Who do you think will believe you that you have been attacked? And that is why we are coming out to speak, because one, if I reported, it would have, but now how could I have gone to report and I was bleeding? And that is the question. Where do you go when you have been attacked? Do you first take care of yourself, or do you first go and report? And with our justice, slow wheels, which comes first? Of course, it was my health first. So I had to go to the hospital. They had to take care of me. And then I had to go as a requirement to report to the OCS, get an OB, in case further I would want to instigate a legal proceeding. So I did not report as far as reporting and taking legal actions. But even after that, after I came here on KTN, then she took the legal procedure of suing me for other issues. Yeah. So, yes.
So did she only attack you once, or it's something that happened for so long?
Well, this one was a one-time attack.
Yeah.
The only thing is that it was a timed bomb. that erupted on that day. So there were other small factors of mistreatment and gender-based violence that were not, I never captured them until now when the big issue happened. Because you don't just wake up and start battering your wife. You don't just wake up and start beating children. It starts from a distance, either from the brain or from association or from whatever you're going through.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, Dr. I'll come to you. He says it's a ticking time bomb. What exactly are the signs of sexual harassment?
I would say generally gender-based violence, it's stigmatized, and a lot of times even when it's men to women, or people would fear to talk about it because the society sort of accepts the violence against women from men. It's even more stigmatizing when it happens to men, violence meted on men by women. And so most of the time, especially in the rural setup, where in some cases people take it as normal, you would need to actually, as a healthcare provider or as a counselor or as a humanitarian, dig deeper and make the person you're dealing with comfortable to be able to talk about it. And sometimes you might even want to talk to the person alone in a consultation room for them to be able to open up. However, it can present in various forms because it could be physical, it could be psychological or sexual violence. So if it's physical, somebody will present with injuries which the way they are explaining might not seem to tie up. If it's sexual, they might come with sexual injuries around the genitals, or they might come with the unexplained or infections. Or if it's psychological, then some will come with depression, some have attempted suicide, and some will come with what we call Hapa syndrome. They will complain of stomachache, you do tests, you can't find what is really causing the problem, headaches, chronic headaches. But when you sit with them in private and ask about their life, you discover that there is gender-based violence which has been ongoing.
Yes.
Yes.
So let's say I am married. I live with my husband. When do I start detecting that, you know what, this is going the wrong way? I need to start being carefully, treading carefully. Yes.
Yes, it might initially start with threats that I'm going to kill you, I'm going to beat you up, majority of the case for the physical. And we know that there's also cases of marital rape, which happens in families and it's accepted as normal. And also psychological, like you're not good enough, no other man can marry you, or you're a useless man, you don't even bring in income into the house. So it could start in subtle ways, but it can also be sudden, because sometimes when you look at the perpetrators, some might even be influenced by the fact that they have taken a substance like alcohol, or so it could be sudden. But most of the cases, there are telltale signs that things are not right. Yes.
Kennedy, let me come to you. Simon said that our justice system is very slow, which is correct, because we've seen so many times people go reporting these cases to the gender desk and they're told to go back home. You work with the men-to-men program. How many cases have you witnessed personally?
First of all, I want to sympathize with my friend, because there's no justification for violence, whatever the case, be it that it's being perpetrated by a man or a woman. That is the bare minimum. The second thing that I want to say is that there are many cases of gender-based violence and domestic violence for that matter, but then we also need to just affirm with statistics that there are many more cases of women who are being violated physically and in different forms of violence than cases of men. One, because again, men don't come out often. You go to communities, you empower communities to be able to detect and speak against all forms of gender-based violence, but then men are still very reluctant because of the socialization process that they are told that, you know, you are strong, you should be the strongest in the house, you should, and so when the converse happens, then you realize that the man is at a very, you know, confused situation. Yes, we've had cases of gender-based violence. Most of the cases that are presented to us are actually women who are battered, because they often come out a lot more to report. But then men, in my experience, are slow in coming out to report these cases, because again, there are no systems in place to respond favorably to cases of men who are reporting. Again, even the perception that people who are in the institutions that are supposed to dispense justice sometimes is very negative on cases of men who are reporting. At the same time, women also face a lot of challenges when they are reporting these cases. Yeah. Some are because the family has put a lot of pressure for them not to report. Sometimes the people who are supposed to pick up these cases are not willing to pick up the cases, that is the duty bearers. Or sometimes it is the evidence that is in place makes it difficult for justice to be dispensed. And so the most important thing then means that prevention is the key and core to eliminating all forms of violence against any man or woman in our societies.
Okay. Simon, let me come to you. One, did you have children?
Yes, we had 2 beautiful daughters.
And how was it for you when the incident happened?
Yes.
Were your children present?
Yes.
They were. How was it for you as a father? A father is supposed to be known as the breadwinner.
Yeah.
And yet here you are, your wife is attacking you in front of your children. How did this affect you?
Well, luckily we were living in a well-built house.
Yes.
5 rooms. And they were in their bedroom. And when actually I was in my bedroom when it happened, she came inside and attacked me from the bedroom. But now I had to get out because now I was breathing completely, look for a towel, and then attend to my breathing, and then make out to go and see how I would be assisted. And my elder daughter said, "Dad, it's very sad. You came at night. On Saturday, we used to have time together on the fish pond, riding bicycles. I would take them out, would pray the equipment together." So she was so affected until, even as we speak, she had to repeat a certain class because psychologically, her brain could not grasp what she saw. Yeah. And she slowed down. And it is very sad. Okay, I already knew that the slowing down was a state of nothing was done to help the kid. And the reason why, after we aired the first time, one of my bishops who took care of me when I was in that state advised me to go back to school and do a higher diploma in psychology counseling, so that I would be able to help other children, not necessarily my children, so that they don't slow down because of lack of, or maybe neglect, to help them detach themselves from the emotions that are raised by either witnessing a father or a mother being battered at any level.
Dr. Ari, I'll come to you.
Yep.
People tend to forget that most of the times this trickles down to not only the mother or the father, but it affects the children. You grow up knowing it is right to batter, it is right to be battered. How can we change this in this society?
Yes, it's true that trauma in the family or violence in the family also affects children. And the best way to make sure that our children grow well is to prevent that violence. We also know that in some cases, children will even be caught up in the middle. Like if there's a divorce case going on, or some children will even be asked to go and spy on the other parent, or others will be made when you convert a child to be listening to your problems, the issues you're going through, and all that is traumatizing. So the best thing would be to prevent so that, and whenever such issues come, but because they do happen, that even the children involved will need therapy to understand what really happens and to feel safe that it's not going to happen again. Because you don't just assume that they are too young to understand, it affects them, and they need to understand and to also be reassured that this is not going to happen again. Yes.
Let's not forget children talk. They go to school, they'll tell their friends, yesterday mommy alichapa daddy. You know, it's not just your children. It's your children and other people's children that you're affecting. I mean, even when they're in school, how can teachers help maintain this? How can they correct them?
There are quite a number of interventions that are in place to see to it that there's a way of assisting children. Because what you're saying is very true, that it percolates into people who are not directly involved. You know, the children will be traumatized. They will talk about these episodes to their peers. And sometimes, because of lack of counseling, if there's no teacher, if the teacher who is probably taking a lot more time with the child is not able to assist, then you realize that the situation is going to be worse. And probably it's going to impact negatively on children who are not necessarily members of the family. Right now, there are different stakeholders and players who are doing work, even though there's still a lot of need. One, there's a national hotline. If there's anybody who needs to be assisted with the violence cases, there's a national hotline, which is free of charge, that can be called from any point in the country. But then even in schools, I know of interventions like speaking boxes, where students or pupils are able to write and their feelings, talk about what they are not able to talk about very openly, and post them, so that teachers from time to time are able to get back to them and assist. And sometimes with the assistance of civil society organizations that are providing those kind of services around the country. But most importantly, we need also to begin to change the mindsets of the people. Yeah. One, the men first, because majority of cases are men who are perpetrating violence against women. One of the things that we need to do is that men are always being told that you're this big, you are this, you are the breadwinner. Yes. But at the current day situation, the things are changing. For instance, the role of a breadwinner is changing, and it can be shared. Okay. And unfortunately, most men are not prepared to respond to this in a favorable way. They always want to be the breadwinner, even when they are not able to. So if we begin to change the mindsets of the men, that again is a big plus. But at the same time, women also must be empowered enough to be able to stand firm, use their potential to provide and to support their families. And this can only be done in an environment where there's no violence.
Yeah. All right, let's not forget that as the discussion goes on, we will be giving you hotlines that you can always call or contact in case you see or you get a case. It's on to my left. And let's not forget that you can always call in, share your experience. You can tweet me at Ashley Mazuri. The hashtag to use is WeCanExpress. Let's get this conversation going. Simon, I'll come back to you.
Yes.
One, are you still with your wife, or did you break up?
Sometimes you're making me feel like I'm in the Supreme Court, but it is okay. We had to break up.
Yes.
One, I had to change the environment immediately for my own safety. Two, I wouldn't want, because after the wound, there was the infection. And that is how I was noticed by a close friend and asked, what is happening? And I was like, I was battered at home. She was like, does this thing happen? We always think it is not. So I had to change and move away so that I couldn't continue traumatizing my children, seeing their able father helpless and knowing exactly what happened. I had to move. I tried to come back, but she feared maybe I am calculating to revenge eventually. So there was that, like, he's being very good, but he is calculating. So the fear of what I would do did us more harm
Yes.
than good.
Too, you said that one of your pastors kept on helping you.
Yes.
Now, the issue that was raised last week when we were having this discussion is women go to church
Yes.
and they get the daily sermon,
Yes.
but the pastors always tell them that, you know, this is society. You have to just be brave
Yes.
and take it headstrong. How was it for you?
For me, the pastor, Dr. J.J. Gitahi, took me to his arms and told me, we advocate for people's safety first because we have not yet gone to heaven. We are still in Kenya. We are still in our world. So anytime you see a telltale of violence, don't think it will change. That is the first red flag.
Okay.
Please run for your safety.
Yes.
If I may say something
Yes,
about,
please.
there's no amount of prayer
Yes.
that can stop violence.
I'm telling
Yes.
You must just stop violence
Yes.
because I don't remember even on one single occasion
Yes.
where a pastor, while presiding over a wedding,
Yeah.
would say, now you can beat your spouse. Or
Yes.
you
But
can
they
hit
do
the
say
bride.
through thick and thin.
No, through thick and
Can I
thin is
interject
never
something?
Yeah.
about, you know, violence.
Yes.
It's through thick and thin because of challenges that people face. But violence is not part of the wedding vows.
Yes.
And so if you go to pray assuming or thinking that violence is going to stop, no, it's not going. Stop
Yeah.
violence.
Yeah.
And one thing that we are doing also is to engage religious leaders because it's very important that they know that, you know, if they don't stand firm on ending all forms of violence, of gender-based violence, they will be presiding over deaths.
Yes.
So that is a must.
Yes.
They must learn to stop violence.
Daktari, he said one thing. The wife kept on thinking that he's going to avenge in some way. So what exactly goes through the mind of the one who is victimizing someone and the one that is being victimized?
Okay, several things would go into the mind of both the survivor and the perpetrator. And to also add on to the discussion they've been
Yes,
having,
yes.
that the worst case scenario is usually death, because we've had media reports of people who have died of domestic violence or near death. So when such violence occurs, then there's what we call, there's trauma, which can now lead to stress disorders. It could be acute stress disorder, or it could be post-traumatic stress disorder. And so that unpredictability, when there is no enough therapy for both of them to heal, then it can mean that both of them keep living in fear, even the children involved. And that's why also, as we talk about preventing, it would also be good to look at some of the issues which predispose or allow or create an atmosphere which some people might think it is okay.
Yes.
If it's not okay to slap your boss or your supervisor, why would it be okay to slap your spouse? So it means that if you can control anger directed to your colleagues or anger directed to your supervisor or your boss, then you can actually also control anger directed to your spouse. Most of the time it's power struggles, and that's why you're hearing the issue of men who are the providers. Now when they find themselves they are not providers, and maybe a woman has taken that role, there is also that issue where then even if I'm disappointed or even if we have a conflict, what is the best issue to best way to resolve it? Can people be taught conflict resolution mechanisms? Can people be given life skills? Can people be empowered on how to deal with stress? Because there's a lot of stress in our lives these days. How do you deal with that stress in a healthy way rather than meting it on your spouse? So there's a lot which needs to be tackled if we are to have prevention. People need to learn how to manage anger. People need to learn how to manage conflicts. And the pastors we're talking about also need to take people through those sessions before marriage, premarital counseling, although we know also gender-based violence can occur in people who are not married or who are dating. So they need to take people through some of those issues and categorically also let it come from the clergy that violence is not acceptable.
Yes.
So that you don't have to deal with it when it has occurred. So when people are taught better ways of conflict resolutions, anger management, dealing with your stress, then we can lower the levels.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. We'll take a short break here on Weekend Express. express. But when we come back, the conversation will go on. How exactly does one get these skills? Does it cost? Of course, you can always call. Our lines are open. Call us so that we can get the conversation going. Let's take that break now.